Welcome to our presentation. We'll be presenting our project titled as Neural Architecture Search for Fake Audio Detection. I'll be presenting this project with my teammates Dania Waqar, Sania Afreen, and Maz Kabir. As we already know that these deep learning architectures are usually developed by human experts or engineers. However, this process of developing these architectures is pretty time consuming and error prone. Also, there is no guarantee that these human developed architectures will explore the entire network architecture space. Also, these deep learning architectures developed by humans are not optimal. Hence, there is a strong need for automating this architecture engineering and to find an optimal architecture. So we in the literature, neural architecture search is being used to automate this whole process, and already these methods have outperformed many human designed architectures. So the first question is, what is neural architecture search? Uh, the neural architecture search is divided into three major components in the literature. The first component is the search space. The search space defines a set of operations, for example, convolution, fully connected layers, or pooling, etc. And it also defines how the operations can be connected to form a valid network architecture. So the design of this search space really requires a lot of human expertise. After that, we have search algorithm. Uh, Search algorithm samples a network of architecture candidates from the search space, and it outputs this some architecture. And in the performance estimation block, we evaluate this architecture and feedback the performance of the architecture to the search block. So in this way, we are able to optimize for a high performance architecture. So in the literature, the most common search space representations are sequential layer-wise representation, cell-based representation, and hierarchical representation. The most naive way to design the search space is a sequential layer-wise representation. Um, for example, we either use CNN or RNN with a list of sequential layer wise operations in this. This representation requires a decent amount of human expertise. After that, we have the cell-based representation. This representation defines the architecture as the same cell getting repeated multiple times, and each cell contains several operations. In this type of representation, the search size is reduced drastically. In the hierarchical representation, we start with a small set of primitives, for example, convolution operation, pooling, etc. And then a small subgraph that consists of these primitive operations are recursively used to form a higher level computational graph. After that, we have the search algorithms. The most naive way to do search on the search space is a random search. We sample the architecture candidates from the search space at random, and there is no learning involved in this. However, with a very well defined search space, this random search algorithm is a baseline, is a very competitive baseline to beat. Um, After that, we have reinforcement learning approach, which involves a reinforcement learning agent for proposing a child model for evaluation. Um, After that, we have evolutionary algorithms, which use some genetic algorithms to evolve neural network topologies. And then there is some research which uses gradient descent algorithm as well to update the neural network search model. These search strategies, specifically reinforcement learning, evolutionary algorithms, are computationally very expensive. We can take a look at the at some example. For example, this paper mentions that they ran 800 GPUs in parallel for 28 days to generate a very simple two-layer FC model. Um, so we can have an idea that how much time this searching for a model can take, and obviously we cannot spend this amount of time for searching for a model. So we did some research and we were able to find an approach which uses gradient descent based approach to search for a model in 4 GPU hours. So we'll be using this approach for our project, and after that we search for a model using this approach for a fake audio detection dataset.
The proposed approach is gradient based searching, which is performed using differential architecture sampling. It can search for a neural architecture in 4 hours with a single V100 GPU. This approach improves the efficiency compared to the other methods. Here we start by searching a robust neural cell rather than the neural network. A neural cell contains of multiple functions to transform feature, while a neural network consists of many copies of the discovered neural cell. So here this figure illustrates our searching procedure. We represent search space of a cell by differential architecture sampling, which we'll also call as DAS. Every gray square node that you see here indicates a feature tensor numbered by the computation order. Different colored arrows indicate different kinds of operation, which transforms one node into its intermediate feature. Meanwhile, each node that you see here is the sum of intermediate features transformed from the previous node. During training, the proposed JDAS samples a subgraph from the whole DAG, which is also indicated by a solid connection. In this subgraph, each node only receives one intermediate feature from the previous nodes. Specifically, among the intermediate features between every two nodes, JDAS samples one feature in a differentiable way. In this way, JDAS can be trained by a gradient descent to discover a robust neural cell in an end to end fashion. The fast searching ability of JDAS is mainly due to its sampling behavior. Talking about the other advantages with this system, when you compare it with the previous methods that we discussed, like RL based and EA based, JDAS makes the sampling procedure differentiable, which allows us to end learn a robust searching rule by gradient descent. For RL based or EA based methods, feedback is obtained after a prolonged training trajectory, while the feedback in our gradient descent method is pretty quick and is given at every iteration. When you do it at every iteration, the optimization of JDAS is potentially more efficient than the other methods that we discussed. The second advantage that you get in this method is instead of using the whole DAG, JDAS samples one subgraph at one training iteration. This accelerates the searching procedure. And besides the sampling, JDAS is learnable and contributes to a finding better cell as well. This also delivers a strong empirical performance while using the fewer GPU resources. Like when we talk about Cypher 10, JDAS can finish one searching procedure in several GPU hours and discover a robust neural network with a test error of hardly 2.282 error percentage.
Next, moving on to the experiments and evaluation step, we first decided to use Google Colab in order to perform our project, but because of the presence of the GPU, but it was difficult to run files on Google Colab because of the presence of Bash commands. So instead, we decided to migrate to a server. So the server we've used has 3 NVIDIA GPUs installed and connected. We installed CUDA libraries and Anaconda. We also installed other libraries like tar and Git in order to perform our project. Next, The algorithm that we're using, which has also been described earlier, is called AutoDL, which stands for Automated Deep Learning. It is an open source PyTorch based implementation of the GDAS paper that we have mentioned above. This library is installed and stored in the DL project folder, as can be seen in the screenshot here. So the first step in replicating the results is to search for a model. They would search for a model on three datasets, which are CIFAR 10, CIFAR 100, and ImageNet, which are all image-based datasets. We decided to replicate CIFAR 10 and then move on to performing the same process on our own dataset. So when replicating on CIFAR 10, since the model has actually already been trained, we're just replicating it. So the previously trained model is searched to find the best architecture, which is highlighted in red. This best architecture has a series of layers, which are all going to be explained in the report in detail. Next, the searched model is trained. So this training went on for 300 epochs for many hours, which gave the final best valid accuracy of 97.08% and a loss of only 2.92%. So this same process is going to be done on our dataset, where first we will search for the best architecture and then we will train it for up to 300 epochs in order to find the best accuracy. This accuracy will then be compared to state-of-the-art benchmarks for fake audio detection later on.
Thank you for that. So next up, we're going to see the fake audio dataset that we are going to be using to retrain the model. This dataset contains two classes. One of them is the genuine class, the other one is the spoofed class, which corresponds to the spoof audio. Each spoof audio generated inside this dataset has been generated using two different voice conversion algorithms, which one of them uses neural networks, the other one uses transfer function based model, and four different type of speech synthesis, waveform concatenation, neural networks, etc. The speech data has been collected from 107 speakers, out of which 46 of them are male and the rest of them are female. As you can see in this image, all the audio files from this data set, the ASV spoof data set that we're going to be using, have been converted into spectrograms as shown in this image, and this is a single spectrogram. So many, I mean, all the whole data set has been converted into spectrograms, and these images will be fed into the AutoDL library to search for the optimum model. Uh, so the next step that we're going to be doing is, to search the most precise and the best model that fits the curve. I mean, using these spectrograms, and we're going to train the search mod on. We are going to train this search model on the audio data set, and in the end, we're going to be comparing the model that we've trained with the existing state of the art algorithms for fake audio detection, and we're going to be doing a comparison on which model performs better. Uh, Thank you for that. And if you have any questions, please do let us know.